Welcome to the Life Matters podcast, where we talk about life matters because life matters. Here, I'm joined by Dr. Monica Miller, who is most notably my RCIA sponsor into the Catholic Church. So I think that's awesome. But I think in terms of your work, especially like what people might know you from, is you're a huge pro-life advocate, huge pro-life figure, especially here in the state of Michigan. You're all over Catholic news and all over things of that nature. You're an author. You've written a book, an awesome book. We'll shout that out at the end. Hopefully you can tell people where to get it. And also, I think most inspiring to me, you're somebody who walks the walk, and you talk the talk. So you talk the talk, but you also walk the walk. I don't think that can be said of most people who are out there doing pro-life work. So I guess just to start us off, could you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, especially like where you got your start in pro-life work, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, it's been a long trip. I think I met you when you were 23.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I got involved in the pro-life movement when I was 23.
Aha, the perfect number to join.
So at that time, I was still living in Carbondale, Illinois. And I was a graduate of Southern Illinois University with a degree in theater arts.
Okay.
So actually, it was kind of one of the most godless places on earth.
Classic.
But in any case, I started to take my faith seriously when I was 21. And was trying to figure out what to do with myself because I was not going to continue in theater. Okay. And I attended a retreat at the Campus Newman Center.
Okay.
It was Holy Week, actually, of 1976. And on this retreat, there were maybe 20 other people that were participating. It was led by a priest. And I met a woman named Shirley Parks. And Shirley Parks was involved in something called the pro-life movement.
Nice.
So this is 3 years after Roe v. Wade, right? Well,
Wow.
You can see where I was living, in La La Land, because I, was completely unaware.
Sure.
And so Shirley was, already involved in the pro-life movement. And I became friends with her. And so she initiated me into the movement. She took me to meetings and gave me books to read. So I guess I would have to credit her, certainly, with bringing me in. And, and here's the thing, I don't have, as far as my pro-life views, I don't have a profound, radical conversion story.
Sure.
Okay. I always knew there's something not right with abortion. So I didn't have to have a huge education regarding that.
Did you, at 23, and you're living in La La Land with Roe v. Wade having just started and whatnot, and I think a lot of people can relate to this because most people are unaware, even to this day, of the reality of abortion. Did you know what abortion was?
Yes,
Okay.
and I did know. And in fact, a friend of mine, and I talk about this in my book,
Okay.
who was also in the theater department with me, was scheduled for an abortion. This was not her first abortion.
Okay.
And I tried to talk her out of it, but she did. She went ahead and had the abortion at this abortion clinic in St. Louis called the Women's Center. Or was it called the Ladies Center or whatever that thing was called?
Wow.
So yes, I knew what abortion was. Though I have to say, in terms of the growth of my awareness, one of the books that Shirley Parks gave to me was Abortion and Social Justice. And it was an anthology. So it had a lot of different chapters on different subjects, broken up into sociology, psychology, biology, philosophy. And actually it was published before Roe v. Wade.
Wow.
It was published in 1972.
Was this book leaning one way or the
Oh,
other?
and it was definitely a pro-life
Oh,
book.
okay, okay.
Yeah, Abortion
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Social Justice.
Yeah.
Hilgers and Horan.
Okay.
Thomas Hilgers is a physician, and he is still living.
Wow.
Dennis Horan was an attorney with the Americans United for Life,
Okay.
and he has since died. But in any case, there was a chapter in that book written by a physician named Bart Heffernan, and it was the early biography of every man. Okay.
Okay.
And it was a trip through fetal development. Wow, was that an eye opener?
Yeah.
It just took me to a whole different plateau. And the dynamic growth of the unborn child in the womb was just so fascinating, so engaging, so provocative. And I just came away from, after reading that chapter, my conclusion was that when we're dealing with an unborn child, we are dealing with a personal someone, okay? Not just some sort of vague entity, some fetus that's developed, a real human someone.
So this would be mostly biology at this
Yes,
point,
yeah.
and so the biology was enough to point you towards the reality that this
full,
is a soul.
the full humanity
Yes,
of the
okay, yeah.
person.
Yeah, we
that
need that
did,
more
yeah.
nowadays, even.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was huge. I finally made a decision to move to Chicago to study theology at Loyola University. So that would have been 1977. And again, I was mentored, if you will, by another woman named Marcita Hecht.
Okay.
And Marcita was a parishioner at St. Ignatius Parish. It was run by the Jesuits just down the road from Loyola University, also run by the Jesuits. So I was hanging out with a lot of Jesuits back then. And she invited me to a pro-life meeting
Nice.
in Chicago, downtown Chicago. So we hopped on the L train and we zoomed down to the Loop and we go to the vintage Madnadnock building and we go to whatever floor. It was a meeting at the Illinois Right to Life Committee, which, by the way, was also founded before Roe v. Wade. It was founded in 1969
Wow.
in anticipation that
Okay.
legal protection for unborn children was being incrementally removed.
Really?
Yeah, so they were they could see the handwriting on the wall, so to
Sure.
speak. So
Yeah.
in any case, at that time, the executive director of the Illinois Right to Life Committee was Joseph Scheidler. Okay,
Nice.
now everybody listening to this should know who he is, right? Now, Joe died 3 or 4 years ago now, at the age of 93. But he was in his early 50s when I met him. And the meeting, unbeknownst to me, I was just told it was a pro-life meeting, was to plan a sit-in
Okay.
at a downtown Chicago abortion center called Concord Medical Services. And again, I talk about this in my book, but Joe wanted to plan this sit-in. Now this was early January or February of 1978, and so when time came for us to, we're not going to do this sit-in unless people are willing to risk arrest. How many of you here at the meeting are willing to do that? And I just raised my hand immediately. I didn't have any hesitations. What excuses did I have? I mean, I was basically a quote unquote college kid, not married, no children. And this just seemed like the right thing to do. And so we did the rescue. I mean, we didn't even call them rescues yet, to sit in at the Concord Medical Services, March 11th, 1978. And there were 12 of us arrested, and it was actually during Holy Week of that March. So we kind of called ourselves the 12 Apostles. But in any case, that was my initiation, if you will, into activism. I met a woman at that meeting, Donna Rozeski, who I also talk about in my book, who had an abortion in 1975 at that abortion center. And she participated in the sit-in at the very place where she had aborted her baby. And she and I became very, very, very good friends. And she was already doing sidewalk counseling in 1978, so I would go out with her. And again, I talk about some of our sidewalk counseling episodes in the book with Donna. She spoke fluent Spanish. Wow, did that come in handy?
Okay.
Because, even back in the day, 1970s, early into the 1980s, there were still quite a few Hispanics who were coming to the abortion clinics.
Oh, really?
To get their abortions, and she could talk to them. I would just stand there and hold the pictures in the brochure.
Nice.
And point to stuff.
Yeah. Right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby.
Yeah, right. So we had a lot of turnaways and saves as a consequence of that. Those babies that were saved back in the late 70s and early 1980s are now, in their late 30s and early 40s. So
very apparently people.
Yes, very apparently personal someone.
Yes.
Yes, exactly right. So that was basically how I got started. And I in the early 1980s, I founded Citizens for a Pro-Life Society, which is my pro-life group. And if people want to kind of find out more about us, they can go to our website, which is pro-life, no hyphen, prolifesociety.com. So we have our website, information on our website.
And maybe I'll be able to I don't know, I'm not too technically fancy, but I can probably link that to the podcast.
Yeah,
so
that'd be great.
Click it. So we'll see if we can do that.
So I started to actually organize sit-ins in Chicago in the late 1970s and into the early 1980s.
So you got involved, you got your feet wet, other people are leading these, but now you've evolved into starting to gather people and lead them. Right. Okay.
Yeah, we did quite a few rescues. And again, we called them sit-ins. The rescue language really didn't come in until about 1986.
Okay.
And it was because, and this was even before Operation Rescue with Randall Terry. The people who were involved in doing sit-ins saw that it was really appropriate, based on Proverbs 24:11, rescue those who are being unjustly led to the slaughter. So if you want to look up Proverbs 24:11, it seemed to fit what we were doing.
Amen.
Right, to intercede on behalf of those who are being unjustly led to the slaughter, to their execution. So from about 1986 until the present moment, we call them rescues, and we kind of dropped, if you will, the kind of the civil rights language sit-ins or from anti-war demonstrations.
Yeah.
So we have a biblical mandate, if you will, to do what we do in terms of these rescues. So I would have to say that the majority of my pro-life efforts, especially in Chicago, was sidewalk counseling. Hours and hours and hours of sidewalk counseling, both at Concord, also at the Michigan Avenue Medical Center, abortion center, right on Michigan Avenue. In fact, it was just a block away from the very famous Art Institute, and right across the street from Grant Park. It was up on the 6th floor of a office building, Michigan Avenue
Yeah.
Medical Center.
So it was a little bit hidden.
Yeah, well, yeah, you wouldn't know. You certainly
Yeah.
wouldn't know that it was an abortion clinic there. And then also Albany, the Albany Abortion Center in on the northwest side of Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of first a word on rescue. I like that language because it really does. I think even just that word speaks to the humanity of the unborn. So, sit
And it's not just a
for rights,
protest.
yeah,
Sitting
it's not
it
just
gives
that.
the idea that we're protesting. Now, I've got a
Yes.
problem with that, of course.
For sure,
but
sure.
we're not just protesting abortion. We're
Yes.
trying to actually save the moms and save those babies from being put to death. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it's that kind of dual mission there. And I just kind of a thought just coming to me is I find it just curious. I mean, obviously we know exactly why they do it, but that a lot of if you drive through here in Michigan, if you drive through, I believe it's West Bloomfield, there is an abortion, in quotes, clinic. It's
Yes.
not for health, but there is one, and that's quite hidden behind something. It's and it looks very manicured and whatnot, and they do that.
We did a Red Rose rescue there.
Nice.
In 2017.
Okay. Yeah.
It was the Jacob Kalo's Abortion Center, the Women's Center.
Yeah.
What's so outrageous about that place is, and I've been there several times. I sidewalk counsel there, even though it's kind of hard to do
It
sidewalk
is hard.
counseling.
I've done that too. Yeah.
Because it's the abortion center is tucked behind a restaurant, okay?
Yep.
And the restaurant in the front for many years, decades literally, was a Starbucks. So Starbucks had the front
Wow.
the front part of the property, and the
Yeah.
abortion center door was
Yeah.
in. I mean, come on! You're getting your lattes
Yeah.
and your tea and your cappuccinos while babies are being put to death
Yeah.
through the 6th month of
Yeah.
pregnancy. I mean,
Yeah.
the place practically shares a wall.
Oh, and they share an ideology. Starbucks.
Well, Starbucks is now closed, and there's another
Yeah, it's-
Chaldean-owned restaurant there now, whatever.
Beyond
But
Juice, I believe it is. So.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so outrageous that abortion. These abortion centers just they look so normal. They blend into the landscape. I mean, they look like a podiatrist's office or a chiropractor or they look so I don't know, the normalization of the killing right in the behind the Starbucks in the same building.
Yeah. Well, it's like when they want to cater it to a certain crowd, which over in West Bloomfield, that's a certain crowd, right? They make it polished, right? And then on the flip side, when when it doesn't need to be polished, when it's tucked away into bad neighborhoods, and
Or on the edge of bad neighborhoods.
on the edge, yeah. And
where Planned Parenthood often will strategize that way.
yes,
Putting their
Yeah.
abortion centers near colleges, economically depressed areas, and so
Yep.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just heartbreaking. And so, anyways, I kind of want you to speak on first off. I just remember I love that story of when you first jumped into action. How it was kind of like a reflex, and then tell us a little more about your work going around to the loading docks. Yeah.
Well, I am one of maybe 50 people. I think I can say with some confidence, I'm one of maybe 50 people in the world that has actually retrieved the bodies of aborted babies from abortion center trash dumpsters. And then we had this remarkable experience in 1988 of retrieving the bodies of aborted babies from a loading dock that was connected to a pathology lab.
Okay.
And the first time, again, I talk about this in my book, Maybe I should mention the name of the book at this point. But
Yeah, I have it. I have everything here. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about it, and then tell us who endorses it, because I think that's awesome too.
Endorses it. Everybody endorses it.
Yeah, everybody does. I do.
The book is Abandoned: The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars. It was published in 2012 by St. Benedict Press, which is actually a subsidiary of Tan Books.
Okay.
So easy enough to just go to tanbooks.com and you do a search in the search box, Abandoned: The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars.
Or even Amazon. I saw
Amazon,
it on there.
it's on a Goodreads,
Yeah.
it's on a bunch of different sites. Even Barnes and Noble on online
great.
carries it and so on. But Dinesh D'Souza, some people may know who he is, but he has a very big name. Heavily endorsed my book, and he and I didn't have to pay him to say this. Okay, he said the best book ever written on abortion. Okay.
Wow.
So
God
bless God bless Dinesh for that. But Father Pavone has endorsed it. Jill Stanek endorsed it. Of course, Joe Scheidler endorsed it. David B. Wright endorsed it, and a couple of other people. Sad to say, I forget at the moment. But
sure.
In any case, the book is a historical chronicle of pro-life activism from 1976 through the year of 1994. So almost a 20-year period there. And the book is essentially divided into three major focuses. One is the rescues that we did in the early days of the rescue movement, sidewalk counseling, and then the retrievals and the burials of the aborted babies that we did. The first time we retrieved the bodies of aborted babies was in 1987. And a little quick story about that. The Michigan Avenue Medical Center had a guy that designed their yellow page ads. Okay, so this was long before the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So you advertise in the yellow pages.
Yep.
Okay, and the guy's name was Cass Bogdan, and for some reason, and I don't know why, he had a major falling out with the abortionist Regaldo Florendo, also born in the Philippines. And he knew he had a secret. So he got together with Joe Scheidler and Thomas Bressler. Thomas Bressler ran a pregnancy help center about 3 doors down from the Michigan Avenue Medicals.
Wow.
Yeah, it was right there.
Yeah. I didn't realize
Women's
that.
Aid. Yeah, Women's Aid.
Yeah.
He founded Women's Aid. So Bogdan got a hold of Joe, and then he got a hold of Tom, and they had a meeting, and Bogdan told them this abortion clinic is dumping the fetuses in their dumpster.
Wow.
And this could very well be, first of all, illegal.
Yeah. Horrible.
Okay.
Horrible.
And even if it isn't illegal, it certainly is very sordid, and you could make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
So beginning in February of 1987, we went to the alley. The alley was right off of Monroe Street. If anybody's familiar with Chicago, you go to Michigan Avenue and Monroe Street, and make a left, and you're in the alley. And maybe not even 200 feet down, there's the loading dock behind the building where Michigan Avenue Medical Center had its offices. And sure enough, we found the bodies.
Wow.
And in fact, this is the first chapter of my book.
Yeah.
Okay. The retrieval project or mission went from February through April 25th of 1987. And we buried the bodies at St. Mary's Cemetery in Evergreen Park, Illinois. We had a press conference out on the street with the actual bodies on May 6th
Yeah.
of 1987. tons of press coverage. Okay. So what Cass thought would happen, happened. Okay. All right. So the babies were buried in May. Also, about a week later after the press conference, the babies were buried. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go back to do conventional pro-life work, right?
Yeah.
Getting arrested at clinics or whatever. We found out in 1988 that Vital Med is a pathology lab located in an industrial park in Northbrook, Illinois. Now, Northbrook is located 1 hour north of Chicago and 1 hour south of Milwaukee on the 294 corridor. And I, at that time in 88, I was living in Milwaukee studying for my PhD. And what happened is an anonymous employee of VitalMed called a guy, Conrad Wujner. Now, Conrad ran a cluster of pregnancy help centers in the Chicagoland, quote unquote, right, area.
Yeah.
And so this anonymous employee called Conrad and told Conrad that on our loading dock are boxes of fetuses left out for the trash.
Wow.
You guys, you Right to Life people could do something. Come and get them. So in other words, whoever this employee was, and I don't know, I think it was a woman, but maybe it was a guy, had a pang of conscience.
Yeah.
Okay. So she gave Conrad all the information that he needed for us to locate the loading dock, and and the loading dock was actually located in a very large garage section attached to the building where VitalMed was located. Okay. And this employee who was having this pang of conscience told Conrad that if you pull up to the back of our building, there is a utility door that's always unlocked. You can just walk in. Okay. So Pro-Life Action League, which was Joe Scheidler's group in Chicago, and my group, Citizens for a Pro-Life Society, now headquartered in Milwaukee because I was going to school in Milwaukee, we teamed up to do these late night trips to VitalMed. And the first time that I went was late at night on a cold February night, snow on the ground, probably around 10:30. Drive the 1 hour south from Milwaukee. We find the VitalMed. The utility door is open. And we're immediately confronted by a long concrete ramp that goes from the utility door down to the loading dock at the other end of the garage building. Okay. I could see that as I was approaching the loading dock that there were a lot of cardboard boxes stacked up on the dock. And when we got to the dock, we hoisted ourselves up and started opening the flaps on the boxes. It's very quiet. There's nobody there. Okay. Just us. My friend Edmund, who then became my husband, was with me and a few other people from Milwaukee. The boxes were filled with the bodies of aborted babies. And there were probably, I don't know, 10, 12 boxes. And we knew exactly where these babies were aborted because the return labels were on the boxes from the abortion centers where they were aborted. So they were being shipped parcel post.
Yeah.
These dead bodies.
Wow. Shipped
parcel post. And they were, if people read my book, you're going to kind of learn some new language. There's this medical baggie that's called a Whirl-Pak, P-A-C, Whirl-Pak. It's got a twist tie at the end of it, and most of the aborted babies were in a Whirl pack, okay, a medical baggie.
Yep.
On the front of the medical baggie is a space where a technician or whoever, physician's assistant or whoever, nurse, could actually write data.
Okay.
So the mother's names were on the bags, the date of the abortion, often the gestational age of the baby. Yeah, there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
And most of the aborted babies were being shipped from a conglomerate of clinics called the WHO clinics, Women's Health Organization clinics. These were abortion centers all over the United States, like a franchise, owned by a woman named Susan Hill. So they were coming from Raleigh, North Carolina, Fairfield, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Fargo, North Dakota, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and a bunch of other places. Milwaukee Women's Health Organization, the Summit Abortion Clinic in Milwaukee, Metropolitan Abortion Clinic in Milwaukee. So in any case, what are they doing here? Shipped from all over the country, dumped on a loading dock, and they were basically there waiting to be picked up by a medical waste disposal company for incineration. And we knew that because we had the paperwork. We found the paperwork.
Wow.
Yeah, Precision Energy Systems was the company that was contracted to Vital Med to pick up the bodies. And the bodies ranged anywhere from 6 weeks gestational age to some of them 6-7 months. Some very big bodies. And, this was not my first time getting babies out of the trash, okay? Yeah. And I was struck by a very profound realization. I could even feel it emotionally. I says, "What? There's something bizarre."
Yeah.
and that's such an understatement.
Yeah.
About what I'm doing. It's bizarre to be picking up dead bodies on a loading dock in the middle of the night in an industrial park.
Yeah.
What are they doing here? So far away from the places where they were conceived, probably, where their parents live, probably, and where they were aborted.
Yeah.
So I felt very keenly that they were so isolated from human communion.
Yeah.
Okay, the isolation struck me very deeply. And I says, it's, abortion, this was maybe my most profound realization I've ever had regarding the truth about abortion. We're in what's called the right to life movement, right? Right to life. So the injustice to the unborn is that they are deprived. Their right to life is violated. But I knew at the edge of that loading dock, that the unborn were suffering something else. What was it? And I felt very deeply that they suffered a radical, terrible loneliness. They were alone, it's cut off from, as I say, human communion. And so I even kind of metaphysically, where am I really? I'm not on a loading dock in an industrial park in Northbrook, Illinois. All right, you can get your map and find the spot. I'm at the edge of the world. That's where I really am. I'm at the edge of the world. So what's the edge? What's the edge of the world? The edge of the world is where you have to go to find the unwanted. That's where they go. That's where we put them. They are at the edge of the world, and we had to go to the edge of the world to bring them back into the embrace of the human family. And I even felt emotionally that when we picked up a box of the dead bodies and picked up the box, it was as if we were embracing them. It was an embrace, and this was bringing them back into human communion with us. And we spent the majority of 1988 burying the dead. I mean, this retrieval project went from February all the way through the month of October
Wow.
of 1988, at the end of which we had about 5,000 bodies. Nobody, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't. You can't.
Okay, I mean, we had to find places to put the dead.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we would, between myself and Joe Scheidler and Tim Murphy, who worked for Joe Scheidler at that time, we had to find places to put these boxes, and because we were accumulating the dead, and it takes time to bury them, and then even if we were to bury a couple of hundred here or a couple of hundred there, I mean, we're continuing to quote unquote accumulate the bodies, and so this is why I say the untold story of the abortion wars, right? In my book, Abandoned. This is going to, if you read my book, you're going to be very up close and personal with the injustice of abortion.
Yeah.
And I the book is written, of course, the method of writing is autobiographical, but so first person.
Yeah.
But I really hope that it's the unborn who are the main character.
Yeah.
in that book.
Well, I can tell you, over and over, people come to me and tell me that the reason they joined the pro-life movement was from reading your book. I mean, even my fiance, even Mia. No, it's her for real. She said, I read that and I knew I had to do something. I can think of other people at the organization I used to work for, Protect Life Michigan. Tons of people read it, and they're like, I know one girl, she said she just found a new kind of burst of energy to keep going. You know what I'm saying? So she was even her just being involved, and then keep on going. And I think what your book does so beautifully is, and I'm not trying to get too theological here, but the terms can sound that way, but like that the unborn, and I mean, theologians had speculated, that the unborn went to a limbo, right? Those who weren't baptized, and I think you kind of metaphysically went to this limbo place, but I think and you taught me about this, the corporal act of mercy, which is burying the dead. You can see why it's a corporal act of mercy in that you're not leaving them on the fringe. You're welcoming them back in the same way that
they're
Christ
buried
would.
in human cemeteries where other wanted babies are buried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so therefore, these babies are wanted, and they're wanted by God. And you told me the first time I went out to do sidewalk counseling, you were there, and
we saved a baby.
We did, yes, yeah. I was like, oh, amazing, but something that you told me that hit me super hard, and I know Edmund has said similar things as well, is that even if you don't save a baby, a lot of people go out there for the select purpose to save a baby, which is awesome. We should do that.
Right.
But you said, even if a baby isn't saved, we didn't fail. We went out there. We were God's mouthpiece. We were saying to these women.
And if they go to their deaths, they didn't die alone.
Exactly.
We were there for them and witnessing to them.
Exactly.
And standing with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that is an expression of Christ's love for us. And I think that is so
think,
beautiful.
okay, this is my own private spirituality. Okay?
Sure. Let's hear it.
Even if the unborn who are scheduled for abortion still wind up being aborted, by your being there, and they didn't die alone, I think they know it.
I think you're right.
I think God knows it.
I 100%
certainly knows
agree.
it, but
God certainly does.
The babies know it.
I've talked about this before, and I've heard it said that Thomas Aquinas said that those babies who go unbaptized were baptized by angels, or they had that possibility.
Well,
and
right.
I love that idea.
Right, and okay, and then maybe just a couple things there about
Sure.
doctrine, all right?
Yes.
All right. So there has been for many, many centuries this theological notion, okay, that the unbaptized, especially we're talking about unbaptized infants who are not capable of any actual sin,
Sure.
wind up in this place called limbo.
Yep.
Okay, it's not hell, it's not heaven, but it's not. It definitely is not heaven.
It's like the fringe of both, kind of.
well,
They're caught there.
Saint Augustine, who is
Yeah.
quite the pessimist.
Yeah, said it was the outer of
The
hell,
outer,
right?
the outer ridge of hell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, not the center, but
Yeah.
the outer, the borderline. Okay,
Yeah.
borderline. Okay,
Come on, Augustine.
come on, Augustine.
Such a downer.
Oh well. I actually wrote my master's thesis on the salvation of unbaptized infants.
Wow. I didn't know this.
Yeah, I can get
Yeah.
a copy to you.
Yeah.
It
Please.
actually typed on a typewriter. Okay, back in the day.
Nice.
With carbon copies.
Wow.
So in any case, I believe that, okay, here's the theology, all right? I believe that, I don't know, I'm not saying every unborn child, okay, but I know, here's my theology. An unborn child who is rejected, who suffers the violence of abortion, I don't believe that any suffering is valueless. Okay, all suffering has a spiritual value in unity with Jesus on the cross.
Yes.
These unborn children, like the holy innocents, recorded in the
Yes.
Gospel of Matthew, they're considered saints.
Yeah.
Okay, they couldn't refuse the suffering.
Yeah.
It was completely imposed on them. And their blood is literally spilled. And there is no way that blood of the innocent isn't somehow united with the blood of our Lord on the cross.
Who's innocent?
Right. So
Yeah.
it's redemptive.
Amen.
And in that way, I believe that they're saved.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that. What hope we have.
Yeah.
You know.
And if you were there at an abortion clinic praying or sidewalk counseling or holding a sign or whatever, those unborn children know that you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I that's so beautiful. I just love the idea that they don't die alone.
Yeah.
I think we as the church need to be there more. And I'm definitely guilty. I'm not there as much as I should be. But I think that the church is pretty big. We could get a lot of people out there.
Yeah, get a lot more people out. Right. And a lot more people doing Red Rose rescues.
Yes, and which is our next point. And so I want to say, okay, you'll describe to us what a Red Rose rescue is,
Okay.
but I want to preface it with some people can say it's pretty controversial. They can't, and I've heard critiques, where people are like, how could you do this, and that, blah, blah, blah. I want to know what it is and why. Why is it important?
Well, a Red Rose rescue, maybe let me describe it first, and then I'll talk about why.
Yeah.
A small team of pro-lifers, actually, we try to cap it at 6. Okay. We'll go into the waiting room of an abortion center, sit down quietly, try to blend in, if you
Sure.
will, and talk to the moms that are sitting there, scheduled for abortion, maybe with their boyfriends or whatever.
Yep.
And this is our last effort to try and persuade those moms to choose life
Yeah.
before they walk down the hallway of death. And so we will offer them words of encouragement, practical help, and at some point we will, in fact, give them roses.
Okay.
And so that's why it's Red Rose Rescue.
Beautiful.
The rose has a card attached to it that has more words of encouragement for the moms and phone numbers to local pregnancy help centers.
Okay.
Okay. We have had women turn away.
Beautiful.
Okay. But not all of them will.
Sure.
What's just the law of averages. Okay. Some of the moms refuse our help and will walk down the hallway of death and go through with the abortion. So the other dimension, purpose of the rescue is to stay with the unwanted, to stay with the babies. We are not going to leave them. We are going to continue to advocate for them, witness to them, plead for them, and until we're taken away. So we have to be taken away. Now, not everybody who goes into the waiting room with us in a Red Rose Rescue necessarily has to stay.
Sure.
Okay, if the police come and they give you the warning, if you feel for whatever reason you're not ready to risk arrest, you can get up and go.
Okay.
And we've had plenty of people do that. But some of us have to stay.
Yeah.
If it's going to be, if it's just two of us or three of us or whatever, we would have to stay.
And that's your intention.
Yes.
Yep.
So we're not purposely wanting to be arrested. In fact, we try to tell the police not to arrest us, and here's
Please
why.
don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not guilty, you know?
Well, right. We're trying to defend life here.
Yep.
A life is definitely at stake. The unborn deserve at least this much witness.
Yes.
And so there's where the possibility of arrest does come in. But then you've got to see that you're continuing your witness to the police, to the people at the police station, to the people in the court, when you go to trial, the judge, the jury, the bailiff, anybody who shows up, including staff from the abortion center. And, you know, what some of us just completed fairly recently jail sentences here in Michigan. I served 34 days out of a 45-day sentence. Tons of graces were pouring out into that jail, Oakland County Jail. But again, you got to understand, not everybody's going to get a jail sentence either. We've had Red Rose Rescues where we had no charges or charges dismissed or not guilty verdicts. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean, I'm going to wind up having to go to jail. Not necessarily. You're probably, if it's your first time ever getting arrested, you're probably going to have a period of probation. That's usually what Red Rose Rescuers will face is probation.
And that is seen as a win because what I love about this, and I watched you in court, is that's seen as a win because it's it can be viewed as a proper justice being carried out, right? And so our world can be very topsy-turvy, upside down. You're trying to set it upside right.
Yes.
And which you'll tell us a funny story here. And but that is that's the goal, is we want our judicial system to carry out justice in accordance with the truth.
Yes,
you
right.
know. So but that doesn't always happen, and that's what I think. I mean, I witnessed that. I think I witnessed a miscarriage of justice in this most recent trial.
Here in Michigan.
Yes, and so tell us a little about that.
So we did a Red Rose Rescue in Michigan in April of 2022 at the Northland Family Planning Abortion Center in Southfield, Michigan. We had our, this could be kind of a long story, and I don't want it to be too long, but we were convicted because we were denied a defense of others.
Which is sad.
Yeah, and I can maybe direct people to the article that I wrote that explains a lot of this.
Sure.
At Crisis Magazine.
Okay.
So just go crisismagazine.com.
Yep.
And look up the article in the search box, Criminals for the Gospel of Life.
Beautiful.
Okay, so that's the name of the article. Criminals for the Gospel of Life. So it talks about that rescue we did. It talks about the trial in front of Cynthia Arvant, Judge Arvant, And then our sentencing was on March 30th. And wow, she wanted to put us all on probation.
Yeah.
Okay. However, big fat however.
Yeah.
She imposed certain probation conditions. And one of the conditions was that we had to remain 500 feet from every single abortion center in the United States of America and hospitals that perform abortions for 18 months, 500 feet. Now, actually, we could have walked out of that courtroom in good conscience with just the imposition of that condition, because we would have eventually broken it.
Yep.
Okay, because there's no way we were going to abide by it.
Sure.
But she asked for compliance. She asked, will you agree to this condition? Okay. And those words couldn't come out of my mouth.
Yep.
Okay. So 4 of us wound up refusing the condition, and that would have been myself, Father Fidelis Mushinsky, Laura Geis, and Matthew Connolly. So we served this jail term at the Oakland County Jail. Okay. Again, I talk about all of this in that article at Crisis Magazine. But I was able to give a sentencing statement. That's our right.
Yeah.
So we can approach the bench and give a sentencing statement.
This
so
is my favorite part, you know?
So I told, Judge Arvant in the sentencing, she has a lot more discretion to do what's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She's not bound or restricted by, legal precedent or why would we be denied a defense of others and all of that nonsense. But, so I told her, this is your opportunity, Your Honor, to put this upside down world upside right.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity, to the unborn remained invisible during our trial, and the jury never got to consider that we were trying to defend life, and now's your opportunity. And I said to her, in the objective world of right and wrong, I am not guilty. And her response was, I don't operate in the objective world. Whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
She says, I don't operate in the objective world.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, why not?
Oh.
I mean, so the law's the law, no matter if the law's wrong, the law's corrupted, the law's perverted, the law that denies the unborn exists.
Yeah.
And you're going to abide by this perverted law that says the unborn don't exist and send us to jail.
And that's what it is. I mean, it's perverse, and
I've never heard a judge ever say such a statement.
I was flabbergasted. There's the woman, she gave the audible gasp. I thought it was so funny. She was like, she just couldn't hold it back. She was like, and then they're like, or they're so mad.
Well, I wrote Judge Arvant a 4-page letter while I was in jail.
Okay.
And when I got out, just a couple of weeks ago, I wrote her another letter.
Oh, okay.
And I sent her a booklet that I had edited of abortion victim photography. And each photo in the booklet's called I Was a Stranger. And it was also published by 10 books. Each photo is accompanied by a reflection by, a lot of them are really, really well known pro-lifers like Abby Johnson and Father Pavone and so on, and David B. Wright and so on. But some of them are not famous pro-lifers.
Yeah.
So in any case, I sent that. It says, here is the objective world.
Yeah.
And I hope that you will let these victims speak to you. So I don't know if she's going to respond to my letter or not.
We'll just...
I also sent the same thing to the prosecutor.
Oh, really?
Bonnie Fitch.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yep.
You know what? That's awesome. We, to everybody who will be listening, just pray for them. Pray for them. Because, real quick, kind of last thing.
Hey, one last thing.
Honestly,
if people want to get involved in a Red Rose Rescue, we can get you involved. So you just go to my website, which is prolifesociety.com, no hyphen, prolifesociety.com. Click on the contact tab. and just send us an email.
And you're good at email.
Oh yeah, we'll get back to you.
Yep, you'll get right back to them.
Yep.
So they can be confident of that. I want you to just tell us real quick before you just say a couple words on sidewalk counseling. Tell us about how there was this judge who did change his mind.
Oh, well, right. That would be Judge, and again, I talk about this in my book, Judge Shudson. And I was tried in front of him back in 1992 for a rescue that I did in Milwaukee. And he sentenced me to a 9-month jail sentence. Now, in my opinion, I mean, it was soft, quote unquote, soft time because it was a Huber jail. I was out during the day. I had child care release. I had work release.
Okay.
So I was out every day, Monday through Friday, for about 8 to 10 hours.
Okay.
So it was a work release jail. Okay.
Yeah.
I served 7 out of the 9 months. Okay. But I sent him a copy of my book when it came out because he's in my book.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, you're in it. Look.
Right. And I quote the transcripts from the trial and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. And he wrote me back. He was retired by then. You would have thought I was his long lost cousin. All right. His long lost sister. About a year or so later, he wrote his own book. I don't remember the title of it. But it was a book on how judges come to their decisions when it comes to sentencing convicted criminals.
Okay.
I am an entire chapter in his book because he essentially regretted that 9-month sentence.
Wow.
Yeah, he did. He was I would say very honest with himself.
Oh, good.
About that.
Good.
So it was basically a kind of apology.
Yeah.
So there it is.
I love hearing that because I think a lot of people can get really down. You just look around at the world around you and you're like, wow, how could this all be? You know, there's things that can bring us to real sorrow, you know? And I think it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, wait, even these people can see the light.
Yes.
Even these people can look back and say, hey, I made a mistake. Nobody's beyond forgiveness, you know? I love the pro-life movement for that. It's the most forgiving movement, you know, to, like you were mentioning, people you know who you've worked with who have had abortions and have turned around to make reparation for that. But also just why are they involved in the pro-life movement? Well, because they're forgiven, you know, and I love that. And I just real quick, I want to say to anybody else who's listening is, you know, they're like, even just in my personal experience, I've seen one abortion worker who was worked on by Emmanuel as well, and Sister Gail, if you know her. And
yes.
They had a huge hand to play in this too, but through conversations we all had with this one abortion worker who was like probably putting the severed pieces of the baby
of the bodies together. Okay.
So he was in the group, you know, I just can't even imagine. And he, you know, after one or two conversations, that third time I showed him for Jeremiah 1:5, you know, I knew you before I formed you.
Yes.
And he was like, man alive. He went back to his car. He's like, I'm deluded. And he eventually, about a month later or so, he left.
Yeah.
He was out of that work. And so that was, you know, you can see heart changes in anybody, you know? And so the last notable thing, cause we have just like 5 more minutes here. One thing that I'm really inspired by from you in particular is your method at sidewalk counseling. First off, when I saw you do sidewalk counseling, I was like, okay, that's the way to do it. I got to just mimic that, you know. Very emotional, very human interaction, very honest, right? Not you're not Bible thumping, you're not beating them over the head with the Bible, but you are saying, listen, this is death. These are the doors to death, right? And so your method of sidewalk counseling,
let them know that I'm here to offer you whatever help I can, real help.
Yes. And so tell us about that, and tell us about just situations that you've had, because I think this can really, you paint a beautiful image of what the pro-life movement should be doing with these
Well,
women
and I do think
children.
that, I do think sidewalk counseling is the backbone of pro-life activism. And again, I can drive people to an article I wrote in Crisis Magazine. Easy to find this one because it's called "Catchers in the Rye." Okay, catchers in the rye. I use that as a metaphor for what we're doing at when we're doing sidewalk counseling. So, Crisis Magazine, "Catchers in the Rye," about sidewalk counseling. But being there to approach these moms, let them know that you're there to enlighten them about the humanity of their unborn child, and to try to get them to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay, that you're not the one doing all the talking, but how far along are you in your pregnancy? What's the problem? What is it? Can I help? What can I help you with?
Yeah.
And let them know that you're there to actually really give them help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're talking financial help. The rent, the car payments, the utilities, the prenatal care, and pamphlets. I mean, give them a pamphlet. I actually write my name on it and my phone number. And the pamphlets that we're using here in Detroit are from my husband's group, Guadalupe Workers, and it has their phone number on it.
And they do great work.
Yes. And so when we turn a mom away, we do some pretty intense follow up in terms of if whatever it is that they need, and there are some financial needs, not all the time, but often there is. And right now we're helping a mom who's pregnant with she actually had the twins early. Okay, she had the twins 2 months early, but we're financing her right now. We're paying her rent, we're paying her electrical bill and so on, because she got kicked out of the house. Her boyfriend, the father of the baby, didn't want anything to do with the babies and with her. So we had to Johnny on the spot to solve this problem.
Wow.
So I'm still following up with moms that I talked out of abortions literally years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we and they are very, very, very grateful.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yes,
thank
sure.
you for sharing with us all of pieces of your story, kind of some of the motivation behind what you do, and then just for being such a beautiful witness to, and dare I say, like, kind of icon towards what it looks like to love these women and their children, and even the men and the families, and really be that mouthpiece of Christ to the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you, Jonah.
God bless you.